Alright, this lesson actually hits a couple things, not just the equation of a line, but that's what we're going to talk about first. Again, I'm not going to start from scratch. I'm just going to go through some very basic stuff about equation of a line right now. If you had, let's draw one in here. If you had a line like this line basically has two things that we're really concerned about. One thing is where it hits the y-axis. Okay, we're always concerned about where it hits the y-axis. We're also concerned about how it slants. Right? Those two things are in this form right here. Remember this? Y equals what? Mx plus b. You've seen that a ton of times, haven't you? The m represents what? What word do we give to the m? The slope. And then the b represents the y-intercept. And I'll just shorthand it and put int. This point right here is the y-intercept. Right? The slope is, let's write it right here. I don't know if you learned it this way or not. Change in y over change in x. Did you learn that in Algebra 2? With those triangle things, it means delta. Delta y over delta x. Okay, it's just a Greek letter of the alphabet that represents the change in something. Well, how do you find the change in y? Well, you subtract the y's from each other. And then you put that on top and you subtract the x's from each other and you put that on the bottom. That's how you find the slope. Okay, rise over run, remember that? Rise over run, or the change in y over the change in x. So you subtract the y's, put it on top, subtract the x's, and put it on the bottom. That's how you find the slope. All right, enough of that. Let's do an example. Now again, I expect that you have learned some of this stuff already, so that's why I'm going a little bit quick. If you haven't learned it, or if you forgot it, you need to research it yourself. Okay, I don't know if you have any math books sitting at home with this stuff in there, but again, you can go online and you can find, there's tons of people that'll sit there and teach it to you, right? And sometimes that's more helpful than just reading a book. All right, so let's look at example 10.1. It's on the top of page 75. It says this. By the way, they call this the slope-intercept form. A lot of times we just know it as y equals mx plus b, but they call it the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line because it's got a slope, right, m, and it has an intercept, or in a particular a y-intercept, and we call that b. And let's put a couple points here. Here's the example. They give you 2 points. How many points does it take to form a line? What's the minimum number of points it takes to form a line? Just 2, right? So if they give us 2 points, we should be able to find, the equation of a line. First thing we do is we find the slope. I'll put a 1 here. It's basically a 2-step problem. Okay, you find the slope, then you find the y-intercept. Then you stick it all together. If you want to call that a step, then you can call it a step. Let's find the slope first. Well, what do we say about finding the slope? Subtract the y's from each other, put it on top, and then subtract the x's and put them on the bottom. It doesn't matter what order you subtract them. You'll see a lot of books go y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It doesn't make any difference as long as you subtract the y's and the x's in the same order. Okay? So let's do the y's first, though. Let's just go the first one minus the second one. So what do I got? I got negative 2 minus what? Is it just 3? It's minus what? It's a negative 3, right? Negative 2 minus negative 3. Those are my y values. You with me? That's x1, that's y1. That would be x2, and that would be y2, because my first point, my second point. Now let's subtract the x's from each other. Negative 3 minus 4. Let's figure out what this is. Well, that's a plus, right? Minus a negative is plus. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1 over negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. So my slope is negative 1 over 7. Now what we need to do is find my y-intercept. And we find the y-intercept by putting it into this form, y equals mx plus b. Now look at the x and the y. The x and the y represent any point on the line. Any point. Well, I know 2 points, don't I, on my line. So this x and y represents either one of these points. It doesn't matter which one you use. It doesn't matter. I could do them, but for sake of time, I'm not going to put them both in. I'm just going to do one. You can pick one. It doesn't matter. You'll still get the same equation either one you pick. Which one you want to pick, the first one or the second one? First one? Okay, we'll pick the first one. So what are we going to do? We're going to put some stuff in here. We know the x and the y. Look here. This would be my x and this would be my y. And we know the m, the slope. We just found it. It would be negative 1/7. So let's put the stuff in. So what's my y going to be if I pick this point right here? It's going to be negative 2 equals the m. We just found it, which is negative 1/7, times the x. What's my x here? It's negative 3 plus b, and that's what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find what b is equal to. So let's make this a little bit nicer looking. Watch, negative times negative is positive. 1/7 times 3 is the same as 3/7 plus b. Now it's just a matter of solving for b. So we subtract a 3/7 from both sides. We subtract a 3/7 from this side. Now look, this is over 7, so really we're going to find a common denominator, aren't we? So I put this over 7, and what's that going to be? Negative 14, isn't it? Alright, so negative 14/7 minus 3/7 is negative 17/7. And I'm practically, for all practical purposes, I'm done. I just got to put it all together, make it look real nice, make it look like an equation of a line. So I come over here. In my other class, I said we're going to put it all together, wrap it up, put a bow around it, okay, just to make it look real nice. So y equals m. What's my m? It's negative 1/7. Then put an x, and now you put your y-intercept, which is negative 17/7. All right? Did I do this right? Negative 3, 2, 4, negative 3. Oh, you know what I did? The book. This is good for this problem. The book, it's negative 3, 2. So if you look in the book, you're going to see a different answer because I accidentally put a negative 2 here instead of a positive 2. But that's okay. This is the correct answer for this particular problem. All right. If you look in the book, it'll look different because I misread the problem. But this is right. We did everything fine, and that's your answer. That's the equation of a line given 2 points. All right. Let's go on. There we go. Alright, this one's a little bit different. Let me go through something real quick with you. If I had a line like this, and I had a line like this, tell me about these two lines. What do you think they are? They're parallel to each other. Do you remember from your algebra days? Even geometry. I taught this in geometry just recently. Do you remember what's true about the slopes? We'll call this line 1, we'll call this line 2. The slope of line 1 would be what? Equal to the slope of line 2. You with me on that? Alright. So if the lines are parallel, the slopes are exactly the same. What if I had a line like this and a line, I'm just eyeballing it here, but we can make an assumption. Actually, if I did this, what are they? They're perpendicular, aren't they? Now, what's true about the slopes here? Let's just make one up. Let's say the slope of, 3/5. Watch, let's say the slope of this line right here was 3/5. What's the slope of that going to be? Is it going to be 5/3? Look, this is from left to right, this is going up. That's a positive slope. What kind of slope is this? It's going down from left to right. So it's not positive 5/3. What is it? It's negative what? 5/3, okay? Look, this is a lot steeper too than this, isn't it? So what do? You take the slope of the one line. To find the perpendicular slope, you take the negative reciprocal. That's the phrase that I use. Okay, I use this phrase. Different people have different phrases, but I like to say it this way. It's the negative reciprocal. Okay, negative just means you take the opposite sign. All right, it's not always going to be negative, right? Because if this was a negative slope, then this would be a positive slope. You with me? A lot of people say opposite reciprocal or opposite inverse. There's all kinds of ways you could say it. This is the way I use if I could speak. I usually say it. I say negative reciprocal. All right, you with me? So if I give you one slope, the slope of a line that's perpendicular is going to be the negative reciprocal. You change the sign and you flip the fraction. Does it make sense? All right. With that said, let's write down the next problem. All right, here's just a little sketch of what the problem says. It says find the equation of a line that passes through negative 2, 5 and is perpendicular to this line right here, 3y plus 4x equals 2. All right? So I got to find the equation of a line that goes through a point and is perpendicular to this line right here. Well, what did we just talk about as far as being perpendicular? The slopes are negative reciprocals of each other, right? So can you just look at this equation right here and tell what the slope is? No, Ryan, you with me? You can't just look at this and tell what the slope is. What do you have to do? You got to put it in the form we're used to, right? You got to put it in slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b. So let's do that. Let's solve for y right here. If you're writing this stuff down, it's going to keep you awake. If you just sit there and stare at the screen, you're going to fall asleep. All right, so write this stuff down. We're going to solve for y right here. So let's do that. I'll show you how to do it real nice and easy. Subtract a 4x from both sides. I stuck that 4x in between the equal sign and the 2 because it's y equals mx plus b, right? So I want the x first, and then the b, the constant, I want that on the end. So I slide it in between here. I just subtracted a 4x from both sides. Now, divide both sides by 3. Now I have to divide everything by 3 over here. So what do I get? Now I want to write this so it's a coefficient out in front. So it's negative 4/3. Oops, my 3's sometimes look crazy. Negative 4/3 x plus 2/3. I don't even care about that 2/3. What do I care about? I care about the slope. Why do I care about the slope? Because the slope of my line is going to be perpendicular to the slope of their line. This is their line right there. So if the slope of their line is negative 4/3, what is the slope of my line? It's the negative reciprocal. So, come on. Talk to me. We just talked about it. It's 3 over 4, right? It's 3 over 4. That's the slope of my line, all right? I just used their line to figure out what their slope was. Isn't that mean of me, using them like that? But I used them just to find their slope. So I put it in slope-intercept form. Then I can look at see what their slope is. I change my slope to the negative reciprocal. Now look what I have. I have a slope and I have a point. Can I find the equation of a line now that I have a slope and a point? Absolutely. So we're going to put it into this form just like we did before. It's very similar to what we did earlier. And let's put the stuff in here. Put the 5 in for the y. Okay, because this is my x and this is my y. This is the only point that I know. Remember the other problem? I had 2 points on the line. I could choose either one. Well, this time I can only choose this one point because they only tell me that one point on the line. So I put a 5 in for y equals the m. Just found it. What is my slope? It's 3/4, right? Because that's the slope of the other line. This is the slope. 3/4 is the slope of my line times x, which is negative 2, and then plus b. Now let's do the math and solve for b, and we'll be finished. That's let's do this. That 2 goes into 2 once. It goes into 4. Oops, almost wrote a 4. Twice. So what is that? It's negative 3 over 2 plus b. Add a 3 over 2 to both sides. All right? So I can rewrite 5 as a 10 over 2. You understand why I did that? Because I want to find a common denominator when I add the 2 together. So 10 over 2 plus 3 over 2 is 13 over 2, and that's what b is. So look what I have. I got a slope, I got a y-intercept. I just put them all together now into the slope-intercept form, so it's y equals 3/4 x plus 13 over 2. And there it is. So that's the equation of a line that goes through this point, negative 2, 5, and is also perpendicular to this line right here. All right. I know I went kind of quick, but it's on the video. All right. Go back, pause it, stop, write stuff down, do what you need to do to figure out how to do this. It's also in the book as well, of course. All right. Yeah, there's no way we're going to finish this lesson. So what I'm going to have you do, you got a long weekend, so do problem set 10. All right, but there are some that you can leave out. Let's take a look. You can omit the proofs. Remember I said you don't have to do the proofs, so what can we omit? It looks like, actually, 9, 10, and 11 are new stuff. So you can omit. You know what omit means? Leave out, right? 9, 10, 11. 12 and 13. So that's all the new stuff that we haven't covered yet, right there. All right. And then the proofs, which are 15, 16, 17, and 18. So 15, 16, 17, and 18. Wow. Look at that. You should be able to do everything else, okay? So do everything else. You can leave out that stuff right there, and we're good to go. All right? But have it all done for when we come back, which is Thursday, right? Thursday. So have a good break. See you at the game tonight, right? Everybody going to the football game tonight? Yeah, big game tonight. Okay.